2414 is a podcast about finding hope and common ground through casual conversation. Like the friends on the road in the New Testament, in Luke chapter 24, verse 14, we want to walk away with more understanding that leads to more conversation as the journey continues. Thanks for walking with us.
Well, that's it. All right.
There we go.
Well, hello. Yeah, this is it. Welcome to 2414. Good morning, afternoon, good night, good 3 in the morning, maybe, if you're listening to this at that time. Whatever time of the day it is. That's right. Hello. I know. Well, welcome to 2414. This is a podcast about conversation and continuing conversation. And right now we're in a series called Vocations. And we're joined by a few special guests. Friend of the show, Pastor David LaFour. Hello.
Hello.
And 2 special guests, Jerry and Becky. Hello. Welcome.
Hello.
Hi.
And so, like I said, this is a series of vocations. And Pastor David, you're a theologian, pastor. How would you describe the word vocation?
Vocation. It's not vacation. It does sound very similar. Vocation's about our responsibilities and our relationships that we have in our life that God's given us, that God's working through. Often when we think of vocation, the first thing that we go to is career, which is, I got to stop turning my head here. I'm noticing.
You're fine.
But the first thing that we go to often is career, because that is a very obvious place of where we're making an impact in our community and where our goods and services are known, and we can kind of see sometimes how God is working through that. And it's not just like holy careers. This is a big aspect of vocational theology, especially with Martin Luther, is that, yes, the priest is doing something absolutely vital and important, but so is the baker. You like to eat bread, right? The priest needs to eat the bread, and so is the ditch digger, and so is the mother. And that kind of gets into the second part. It's not just careers, but it's relationships. God has us in all different times of our lives in different relationships with people, as child, for me, as a child, as a brother, as a friend, as a student, all these different relationships that I had in which I was of service, or not necessarily of service. Not everything was about pragmatic use either. Like when you're a kid, sometimes you're not really useful for a lot of things, but that doesn't mean you're not valued in relationship by the community that you're in. So vocation, and it changes throughout the life, from somebody growing up and then going through their career and then retiring. They have different ways that they relate to the world and that God works through them for the good of their neighbor. So vocation's this really broad thing, which isn't sometimes always helpful, but I love it because, especially talking with younger people who are thinking about their future, or older people who are wondering, what can I do now that I'm retired? It's like, there's actually so much that God does and works and provides through you, even if you don't feel like it, even if it's just prayer,
It's a solid B+ answer.
Yeah, okay. I was like, he was going to ask me this. It's like, oh boy, it's like preparing for a systematics test.
No, but yeah, I think this is very good, all-encompassing answer.
So it's something that all 4 of us in this room have, regardless.
And we'll dive into that. But at the beginning of each episode, we like to begin with highs and lows, and this could be a high and low that from the past hour, past day, past week, even year, whatever kind of just comes to your mind. Probably more recent than, like 10 years ago. But so highs and lows of recent. And then our question of the day is, what is your favorite Christmas movie? So I'll start things off. I'm going to run it over to Pastor David, and then we might circle around from there so you guys get a taste of what this is. So highs and lows for me recently, I'll start with lows, end with high. Lows, still playing a bit of catch up, planning for Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, and then New Year's, and all the hundreds of services that are in December. So I'm still playing a bit of catch up in that. But the flip side of that, the high, things are coming together now. So last night we had our first midweek Advent service, and it was just made me feel very blessed, fortunate to be at St. Luke's, and just the community of the church, just seeing everyone there. It just was really awesome. So that was a bit of a high for me, and having that all, the first of the midweek services come to fruition, and yeah, glory to God. It was awesome. And so favorite Christmas movie. I'm not great at favorites, but 'cause I like a lot of things. But I think for right now, I'll chalk it up to two. It's either Home Alone or Elf.
Okay.
I wouldn't say Elf because that's like the first Christmas movie that came out like in my childhood that's still like holds a candle, or like it's
still popular.
Still popular. Good. So it I don't know if you guys have seen Elf, but it's hilarious. I love it. And then Home Alone, it's just also a classic, and I grew up watching that too. So I don't know, I love young Macaulay Culkin. So that's fun. Oh, I don't know. That's about me. I'll throw it over to David. Highs, lows, favorite movie, Christmas movie.
My low. Sometimes this happens. This happens about half the time. I write a sermon where I get through the first third of the sermon and then step back and go, yeah, I don't like that, and delete the whole thing and start over, which is like, I guess it's not wasted time because I needed to spend that time working through thoughts and ideas that I didn't like. And weren't really true to the text and where I think God was leading me. But it's like, okay, so I'm starting kind of from scratch again this morning, which is, it is what it is. My high, I got hot water back at my apartment. So
you didn't have hot water in your apartment?
I did not have hot water. The instantaneous hot water thing for the apartment was no good. So they ended up just having to put a 40-gallon tank in there, and the low-tech solution was kind of the thing that we needed.
Wow.
So thankful that got done, and it's good to have the hot water again.
If only we need some plumbers.
I know. Yeah,
it's hard to find.
Yeah, they are. Right?
Favorite Christmas movie was for sure Christmas Vacation.
The Lampoons?
Yeah, the National Lampoons Christmas Vacation. We used to watch that every year when we were decorating the Christmas tree. And it's maybe, I don't know. I loved it. I didn't care that.
It's hilarious, yeah. Do you have a favorite scene from it?
I can't really say it here at the podcast. But I love the scene when Uncle Randy is dumping the septic into the city sewer. And as a kid, I thought that was hilarious, and as an adult, I still find it hilarious every time. So, yeah,
that is a classic. Oh, nice. So high was you got hot water back below.
Hot water.
You're restarting your sermon.
Yeah.
Well, awesome. Thank you for filling in for Pastor Dan today.
No, it's good. It's good to get me not just sitting in front of my computer.
That's good. All right. Becky, welcome. Thank you for being here.
I guess thanks for asking us.
Yeah. So highs, lows.
I guess I have to start with a low.
Yeah.
And I think you can relate to it.
Mm-hmm.
We have stink bugs.
Oh no.
They're not spiders.
They're not spiders, but they're bugs.
And they sting.
Well, no, they stink. They're stink bugs.
I haven't noticed the smell.
Well, that's because we haven't smashed one yet.
That's true.
Anyway,
yeah.
We took the cover off our Traeger after 2.5 months, and the Traeger was absolutely covered in stink bugs.
Oh.
And now they're migrating, and we've had a couple in the house.
Oh.
So it's not fun.
Ew.
Anyway.
I like bugs.
I like bugs, just not when they're like invading. Are they seasonal? Is this like the time, or they just?
I have no idea.
They're just there, and
yeah.
Oh,
there's a lot of them.
Oh. So stink bugs are your low.
Stink bugs are my low. Nice. My high, I guess, would be spending time with my daughter Joanna on Saturday.
Oh.
So it was the first time we'd gotten together since we'd gotten back from our trip, and
yeah,
we spent the day and went to the Victorian Christmas Festival and had a lot of fun.
That's so much fun.
Yeah.
That sounds cool.
Oh, and is the Victorian Christmas Festival? What is that? Sorry.
It's a lot of vendors
Okay.
and
Like Christmas lights. too,
Christmas
kinda?
lights and crafting and decorations and food and
Yeah.
just lots of stuff. They have it in Puyallup at the fairgrounds.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's so much fun.
Yeah, we had a good time.
Oh, that's awesome. So, favorite Christmas movie. Yeah. That's hard.
It's really hard, but I always kind of go back to a trilogy.
A trilogy.
I love Santa Claus.
Oh, the Tim Allen?
Yes.
Oh.
The Tim Allen Santa Claus series, and he's putting
Yes.
out a new one.
Really?
Yeah, so there's a
Oh.
new Santa Claus coming out.
I did not hear about that.
Yeah.
Wow. Oh.
So soon there will be 4.
Oh. But the first is a classic.
The first is exceptional.
Yeah.
Yeah.
From beginning to end, it's always just, that's fun.
Which one is the creepy robot Tim Allen Santa? Is that the second one?
The
I think that was the third one.
no, that is it is. It's the third one. It's where the Mr. Frost tries to take over.
Okay, so it wasn't just a fever dream I had. Because is that a wild movie? Was that an actual movie I watched?
Yeah. I think I watched it once, and now it's a faint memory, too.
Yeah.
No, that first one especially is a real
Yeah.
classic.
Yeah. So Santa Claus, that's a great movies. All right, throw it over to you, Jerry. Hello, welcome. Thanks for
Thank
being on
you.
the show.
Yeah, thank you for inviting me.
Yeah. So highs, lows.
Well, highs, we just got back from a 2.5-month road trip.
So where did you guys go to?
Well, we toured the U.S.
Wow. Starting in Washington.
Starting in Washington, we went through Idaho, Montana, Wyoming, South Dakota, and then we headed a little south. We didn't do the Northeast.
Yeah.
That's going to be another trip, but we spent some time in Virginia with some of Becky's family.
Oh, nice.
And we spent some time on the Outer Banks in North Carolina.
I would love to do that.
Walked in the Atlantic,
Yeah.
and we went to Branson
Oh, Missouri. Yeah.
and Nashville
Oh, yeah.
and New Orleans and San Antonio and Phoenix, and we just did the big tour.
Wow. And you guys, I guess, just did a full loop around? Wow.
Yeah, we got back
awesome.
a week ago, Thursday.
And the vehicle held up?
Yes, it did. we have a small motor home and a little car we tow behind it, so
Nice.
it was great. Yeah, we had a good time.
That sounds like so much fun.
Yeah. And another high was
Yeah.
the dinner last night. It was just so good to be back among family, our St. Luke's
Yeah.
family. We met some new people, and it was really good. Got to spend a little time with Gail.
Oh, yeah.
I know we're not supposed to mention names, but
Oh, you can. Yeah.
yeah. And
Yeah.
Gail's a special friend.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
Okay. So did I have a low? Wow.
Yeah. You don't have
I
to.
can't really think of a low.
That's all right. Yeah.
Yeah. It's
Two highs and stuff.
Things are going
good.
well. Yeah. That's always good. Yeah.
So favorite Christmas movie? Oh, the bugs
Yeah.
don't bother me.
Oh, yeah. And that's no low for you.
I have actually two favorite Christmas movies.
Yeah.
It's A Wonderful Life
Oh,
with Jimmy
yeah.
Stewart and The Grinch That Stole Christmas.
The cartoon, right?
Yes.
Okay.
The cartoon one.
I love the Jim
okay.
Carrey version.
The Grinch. love
I
that
like
movie.
Jim Carrey's.
Jim Carrey's good, but
I would say
They're both great.
not to
Yeah, they
defend or to be mean, but the Jim Carrey is one of my least favorite of
Really?
all time.
I thought
It traumatized me as a kid.
I was the right age for it. And Jim Carrey, like I grew up with Ace Ventura: Pet Detective.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
That was my hero as a child. So,
But I do love the cartoon classic and like the song, the deep below. You're a me. Oh, that's a
that's
you're a
pretty good.
mean one.
Yeah.
Mr. Grinch.
and that's just
It's
that
a real
booming
good
voice.
Yeah, I promise not to sing anymore. It's not my thing.
just to your son, right? That he sings.
Yeah, I'll let him do the singing.
That's fair. That's fair.
Yeah.
Well, I guess we'll continue on. So to vocations, more on our kind of our series and whatnot. So after our midweek Advent service, Jerry, you came up to me and you said, "Well, Pastor David said you were looking for trade, someone who knows the trade." I was like, "Well, I do know. Well, we're looking for someone for the podcast to talk about vocation." So what is it you've done most of your life, like for the full-time job, or so you're a plumber, or was there more to it than that?
Well, I was a plumber. I've done a lot of other things before I became a plumber, but I became a plumber and it's been 50 years now. So,
wow.
And I had my own business for 42 years.
Yeah.
And
what's the name of your business?
It's J&K Plumbing.
J&K. I'm assuming
my son runs it now.
Oh.
So
okay.
Turned the business over to him. His name is also Jerry, so that makes it easy.
Yeah.
It's got
The other
phone
Jerry
numbers over and whatnot. So
Yeah.
Is this Jerry? Yeah, it still is.
Yep. So, and plumbing is what we're talking about vocation. Plumbing has been more than a job for me because I've always liked fixing things. I've liked fixing things for people. I don't like fixing things just for the sake of fixing them, but because it helps somebody. I like doing it. I like helping people. So that's plumbing worked really well for me that way.
Yeah.
Because when people call the plumber, they need something fixed, and gives me an opportunity to make someone else's life better. So it's been wonderful for me.
Yeah.
I'll say from some not really personal insight, but it's weird. My family has plumbers kind of attached to it. Of course, my stepdad, Jeff Phillips, who attends church, he plumbs. Several people I knew down in Oregon, plumbers, and at least Jeff, in the same way, I think really enjoys, even when it's just like off schedule, family member calls is like my whatever is doing whatever. It's not, the water's not running downhill properly right now. Yeah. And I think that's something that's vital to everyone's life. And it's a lot of stress and anxiety when it's not working. I mean, even like I said, my high this week is I got hot water back on again. And it's legitimately, it's so good to like get into the shower is like, oh yeah, that's working. So that's interesting that you're saying that as well. I'm curious as to how did you find yourself? Did you want to be a plumber when you were younger? Or was it kind of you worked into it, the opportunity presented itself? How did that happen?
Well, my first wife had a friend who was a plumber, and he had a plumbing company here in Seattle, and she grew up with him. He was older than her, about 10 years older than her, but we were friends. So he called me up one day and said, "How would you like to learn to be a plumber?" And I said, "When do I start?" Because I had heard all the stories about how much money plumbers make, Don't believe all of that stuff.
All right, good to know.
So that's how I got started, and he gave me a job and trained me, so then 7 years later, I started my own business, and I have a son who's a plumber, started working with me. I have a nephew who owns his own plumbing company, who started working for me when he was 17. Now he has two sons that are plumbers that are working with him, and he has three sons. The other one's an electrician now. And I have a brother who worked for me for about 30 years, and he has his own company now. Wow. So it's grown. And hopefully I passed on some of my, not just my knowledge, but my desire to do things right.
Yeah.
Just that's what I enjoy doing.
And And so just to clarify, so you didn't know of any plumbers in your past family. So you're the
No.
first that you know of.
Yeah, the first that I know of in my family. Yeah.
Wow.
My father was a truck driver.
Oh, okay.
So,
But they're very different than plumbing.
yep, very different.
Wow.
So, but he was also fairly mechanical. He was good with his hands, and him and I did a lot of mechanicking on cars and trucks and stuff when I was very young. Mm-hmm. And that's where I guess I got the feel for doing things with my hands, and I enjoy working with my hands and fixing things. So,
Yeah.
I don't know if you know much about Mike Rowe, the Dirty Jobs guy. Of course,
Yeah.
everyone kind of knows
A
him
little
from that
bit,
show,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And he talks about he's talked a lot about actually vocation. I don't know if he calls it that, but he said one of his inspirations. Well, it was a twofer. His grandpa, who he always admired because his grandpa could just fix things, and he liked that. He knew how things worked. But of course, Mike, his career path kind of went a different way. He's like, I am really poor at making things work. I'm really poor at fixing things. I wish I was better. And so his career path went a different way. And there was one day when his apartment, he needed to call a plumber, and wrote a big check on the table. And then as he was leaving, he realized there's this whole society of people who make sure that the rest of society is working. And this is how I'm interacting with him, is I'm only writing this check. I'm not even going to see the guy. He's going to come into the apartment during the day and leave. And that was part of his inspiration of well, let's kind of put a story, let's put the camera in front of these people and ask them. And, plumbing was part of it. It was interesting that plumbing was the direct connection for him. But of course, if you watched any of the show, it moves on way beyond that.
Oh, he does a lot. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But, I guess we're talking about that. It also just reminded me. You said you were doing plumbing for 50 years, so that's a long time, longer than I've been alive by a good amount. 50 years. How is that? How has that? Do you think that the 50 years of plumbing has shaped you, or do you think I've gotten infinitely better at plumbing in those 50 years? How would you kind of encapsulate those 50 years that you've been doing plumbing?
Wow.
Is that it? That was a deep, maybe loaded question. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I think that God gave me the ability to do these things, and so I think it's I've always known that my spiritual gift. We talk about spiritual gifts sometimes. My spiritual gift is service, and so plumbing really falls right into that because I get to serve people, and so plumbing has been good to me. I raised my family with it. I built a business, but plumbing is essential, obviously, for the human race. When there weren't very many people on the earth, it probably wasn't, but now it's really essential. But I think the trades are something that has been ignored for a few years because the schools push every kid into college. Go to college, get a degree. Go to college, get a degree. But as a plumber, I've done as well as most of the people that I know that went to college, as far as my life, my quality of life, and the things I've gotten to do, and the people I've got to know. So.
And it's been meaningful work as well. It's not.
Yes.
It's not. Yeah. You've done well financially. You were able to provide, but you also. It sounds like you felt that there was great meaning to what you did.
Yeah. I mean, I have people who have been my customers for 40, 45 years. They don't call anybody else, because I treat them right. And it's more than just that I fix their plumbing. We develop a bond.
Interesting.
And great to be able to do that. I had a young man that came to work for me, and probably the first 6 jobs that he went on with me, because he was an apprentice. When the job was all done, the customer and I gave a big hug, and because I knew them all.
Yeah.
You know, and that's a great feeling.
Yeah. How often can you say in your full-time job you get to hug your customers? If I was a cashier at McDonald's and I was hugging customers, it doesn't go over the same.
It doesn't go over the same.
No.
Yeah. But so that's, you know, I just enjoy the people and fixing things for them. So.
Now I'm curious. You can answer however you want. I mean, obviously you can answer however you want. But like, is there like one thing though? Now that you're retired and mostly out of it, I'm sure you still probably find yourself doing plumbing every once in a while. But is there something you really don't miss anymore? You're like, that's in the past. let Jerry the younger take care of this one.
You know, I don't know that I can say there is really. I enjoyed what I did. Some aspects were not as pretty as others.
Most vocations,
but it was part of the deal.
Yeah.
So, and I accepted it as part of the deal. So I wouldn't say I hated any of it. It was just, some of it's dirty. And nasty, but you know.
Yeah.
That's what you're called to do.
But then again, you're not bothered by bugs, stink bugs.
That's true. I can crawl under houses with spiders and it doesn't bother me.
Come full circle. Oh.
Yeah, the good news is I've never seen a snake under a house.
Cool. Yeah. What do you do at that point now?
I get out.
So in 50 years, though, is there any way that you feel like the trade has really changed from when you first started to when you're out?
The trade has changed a lot. It's become much more commercial. A lot of it has become more money oriented, obviously, which is good and bad, you know. But I was the president of the Plumbing, Heating, Cooling Contractors Association for 8 years here in Washington, not nationally, but just the Washington branch. And I had opportunities to really help the industry, that need to help its image and help bring new people in. We actually spent some time in Olympia, getting some legislation changed to make things easier to get people into the trades. And it's not just, when I say trades, it's not just plumbing. It's plumbing, electrical, sheet metal, all of that thing. Those are all good jobs. People can make a decent living at them, and you don't have to have a college degree to do it. So, and you can make a good living at it, and you can be serving other people. So, some of the things I've gotten to do is I've gotten to spend time helping Habitat with Humanity.
Oh yeah,
I've done. I was down in Kentucky in August doing some work with Habitat, volunteer work, and I've done a lot of volunteer work with them here too. But and like this new building, when it went up, I did all the plumbing.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And the church paid for the material, I supplied the labor. So just I get to do things like that.
Yeah.
And it's good.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, well, thank you. And it from everything you've been saying, it sounds like plumbing is one of the things you do as a plumber, but it sounds like from what you're saying that relationships are the main thing. Like,
yeah, relationships are, it's good to feel a connection with people. And
that through your job, you've been able to get to know people more. And I mean, and it also sounds like it opens doors to other work too. I mean, from people you know, and from that too, you build other relationships from that too, and kind of so forth.
Right.
Yeah. You were saying the commercialism has really changed, but that reminds me. I mean, 7 years into you starting your plumber or the trade career, you decided to start your own business. To me, that sounds like so foreign and like brave. I know nothing of starting a business, but like, could you speak into that? And like, what made you want to start your own, and what was that like?
Well, I wasn't crazy about working for other people.
Yeah.
So I had the knowledge and I had the skill to do it, and I just thought it was the right thing to do.
Yeah.
So I jumped in there with both feet and no money, and and started a business. I had an old pickup truck that I worked out of for a while, and it was 12 or 14 hours a day, and
just trying
that got better with time, because when I first started, it was about paying the rent.
Take care of yourself,
making the house payment and keeping food on the table.
I was going to say feeding babies.
I had two young boys at that time, so and I just felt like I wanted to work for myself, not for somebody else. So
my father kind of went along a similar path. He ended up a machinist, and worked for another man, business for a number of years, and then started building up his own. And there was that period when I was really young where he would work a full 8-hour shift, at the shop, and then come home and work an additional 4 or 5 hours. And, when he talks about it, I mean, money was definitely part of the equation. He felt that he could make more on his own, but really it was about the independence of, being his own boss. Not really, like, that was, I think, the more appealing aspect to him, and kind of making his own way. But it's definitely a challenge. That's for sure. But respect him for it.
Yeah, and I wouldn't recommend that everybody do it. I've enjoyed it for a long time, but there's a lot of other things you can do for your vocation that are not part of your job. I just mixed the two. So my vocation and my job were mingled, but there are people who work at Boeing that do other things also, volunteer things. And so it's about giving back. It's a lot about giving back to society, and
into one another. And you might have said this before, and I might have missed it. Do you still do any plumbing work, or are you just, I'm done, I've done my share of plumbing, or is it just like, well, I'll help a friend out here and there?
Well, I made a mistake when I retired, because we had an extra truck. The truck that I was driving was basically, because when I left, it was just an extra truck. So I thought, I'm just going to keep it.
Yeah.
So I kept the truck with all the tools and the materials and everything in it. Now I'm ready to sell the truck. because I don't really want to go out and do that kind of work anymore.
Yeah.
I shouldn't say I don't want to, but I don't want to be obligated to it.
Yeah.
I want to be able to do it like when I went to Kentucky in August and volunteered my time. So I went down there to do plumbing, and it turns out they weren't ready for plumbing, so I hammered nails for a week.
Oh.
So, but that was what I was there for. I was there to help, and that's what I did. I hammered nails or whatever needed to be done, and didn't do any plumbing while I was there on that trip.
No, but you did plumbing during the summer working for your brother.
Yeah.
Well, this actually, I had a question for you.
Yeah.
Because I've seen a lot of entrepreneurs in my life. Like I said, my father in the trades and others. I got to say, sometimes, even when you're done and retired and you're kind of setting aside the business, y'all just really like to be at something. Is that true in your experience of Jerry? Is he?
He doesn't like to sit still. Yeah, he has a really hard time just relaxing or sitting back or doing nothing, but he's getting better. And our time on the road, we both experienced a lot of it.
A lot of, yeah.
I mean, a lot of going and seeing and stuff, but not busy and working and.
Some resting.
Yes, more resting.
Well, a lot of time sitting down.
Yeah, driving and yeah.
Yep.
And I mean, it was a great experience, but there were days where he'd want to just rest. He tells me I don't know how to camp.
She doesn't.
But
Well, what's your idea of camping?
I don't know. I never did it before.
Sorry.
She needs to go and see things and do things.
Yeah, when we get
she
to a
needs
place.
schedule.
Oh, no, but when we get to a place, I want to see what we went there for.
Yeah.
And he got to the point where he just wants to sit back and relax.
Yeah. Well, speaking like it sounds like you can't sit still, do nothing, but you also love to help people and help where needed. But Becky, I'm curious, what most of your life, did you have a kind of main job or a main calling that you?
I worked. I actually spent 38 years with an insurance company processing medical claims.
Oh, okay. It's a lot of phone calls.
So
Or-
over 38 years, it changed a lot. I started with Medicare, processing Medicare claims, customer service too. We'd take all of our own phone calls. Then went to the private side. And probably my last 7 years, I processed hospital claims for Oregon,
Okay.
working in Tacoma.
Okay.
But yeah, less phone calls later in my career, which I was really thankful for because I don't like to talk on the phone.
Yeah. But what did that job have a lot of kind of conversation interaction, or was it a lot of like filing and back work?
It changed over the years.
Okay.
Early everything was still being done on paper. I mean, writing down people's appointments and all the coding was done on paper, which would then go to someone who would key it into a computer. And every night that got sent off to be processed, to actually having computers that sent it as we did it, to towards the end, I'd say 98% of our claims all were on the computer already. All we had to do was go process them. So it was always changing and evolving and being different. So, but lots of interaction with coworkers.
Yeah.
They become family.
Yeah.
And
Especially, you said 38 years.
38 years.
Yeah, that's a long
Yeah.
time to get to know
I was in
people.
4 different locations, but always
okay.
with the same company.
Yeah.
But yeah, you get to know people and some customers. I mean, early in my claims processing, we got to know a lot of our Medicare clients because they would come into the office pretty regular, and so you'd get to know them and.
Yeah.
So.
And that's a necessary service for them as well. I mean, so.
Oh yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. And I eventually, there were times when I think, I need to do something else. I really shouldn't stay here. But then I actually worked with a lady, probably 5 or 6 years into my work with Regents. And she was a pastor's wife.
Oh.
And we got to talking and everything, and I really enjoyed her and her conversations, and it eventually brought me around to realizing that, yeah, I'm just sitting here processing claims all day, but I'm paying people's medical bills. So it's a service. It's not just processing claims. I'm actually helping people and paying their bills.
Yeah.
So you got an attitude adjustment.
I did, yeah.
Well, in some ways, it's almost harder to realize that, to come to that realization, because I mean, you more or less got to see a lot of the people that you're serving, and got to hug them afterwards.
Yeah.
I imagine for a lot of your work, it's sometimes distant, and
Right. Yeah, it's all, and especially over the phone. I mean, in the later years, we never saw the people. Everything, we always had a customer service counter, but unless you were one of those people, you never saw the clients. So, yeah, it was all phone contact after that.
Yeah. And without your, like you're saying,
Yeah.
if you weren't doing your job, those people.
They yell at you.
Well,
and I mean, it's a good reminder too. I gotta say that the people that we talk to, customers, like they're people. They're doing their job.
Yeah, they are. Yeah,
and there's someone.
And you just have to listen. I mean, there were a lot of calls like that, and you just listen and you let them vent, and then you kind of take a deep breath and get through it.
Were you able to kind of practice not taking it personally and just kind of like, okay,
yeah,
this is just happening?
Yeah.
Oh.
You have to. I mean, but you didn't want to go home and answer the phone after a day.
I can't imagine. It's just like your parents are calling. It's a lot of effort. How did you get into that? Did that come from a mutual connection that got you into that?
No, I just needed a job and applied, and that was I had applied. I just moved. I just moved to that area, and I'd applied for about 3 jobs, and 2 of them. Well, one never called me back. One, when I called them, they told me I was overqualified, and then I did get the job. And I was really glad I got the insurance job rather than the laundry job.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I gotta say, Shane, and maybe you'll agree, maybe you'll disagree with me, but I do feel like there's a generational difference in how we often talk about getting into a job, getting into a vocation. Because often when I talk with older generations, both your stories are kind of like, I needed a job. And so like this wasn't where I was going to fulfill all my dreams and fulfillment in life. This was a job. But then you find positive aspects about it. You find how you, in both your cases, you're serving people, and it's necessary. And there's kind of a beauty to that. But I got to say, sometimes in our generation, at least, and maybe we've wisened up a bit now. I don't know if you're Z or Y or what you are, but
I'm technically Z, but
you know, got a Zoomer.
Yeah, I know.
But I think maybe we've wised up, at least my millennial cohort. But there was a lot of the job is where the fulfillment is. So I have to choose right going into it. There's a lot of pressure on choosing right, on going into college, and this is the field. And some of that's positive. I'm not saying that's all negative. Some of that is good. If you can do it. But at the same time, I think there's just something admirable about I'm going to get into it, and then I'll kind of find, the meaning in the job, the ability to serve people, or just even providing for my family, or providing for my neighbors, or whatever that means.
Yeah, I think I definitely see that in kind of my generation, and just that, but also keeping in mind that they're all young. I'm young, and a lot of people who are I'm just this for now, but I'm gonna be I'm working towards X, Y, and Z, but I think over time we realize that on the surface level, a job is a job, and that can be fun and it can be miserable, and work is work. But at the same time, there's so much beauty in the relationships you make and like in the growth you have along the way in your job, and that really shapes and forms who you are. And I think the younger you are, you there's a lot of learning.
Yeah, you just have less experience.
For me as well. Like there's so much learning.
The same for me.
That goes.
Yeah.
I heard a statistic. Sorry, I heard a statistic one time. They were talking about millennials.
Yeah.
And they said that they figured that a millennial would have 11 careers in their lifetime, not jobs, careers.
Careers.
So they don't stay any place very long. They're moving. They're moving along. There's something to be said for stability and staying with something. You know.
Yeah.
So
I agree. I told my girls, I mean, I have 3 daughters, and I guess I instilled good work ethics in them, but I always told them, I said, you don't ever leave a job unless you have a new one to go into. Mm-hmm. I said, you don't quit without already having that next job.
Mm-hmm.
And they've actually all pretty much stuck to that. They know.
You're surprised. Sounds surprised. They've actually.
But that's interesting. I kind of want to hear more about what you think is good and beneficial about that stability from both of you, because you both were fairly stable, at least in vocation is bigger than careers, but you're both fairly stable in your careers. It sounds like.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I don't think you ever really, if you're going to change careers 11 times in your life, are you ever going to get really good at one of them? Mm-hmm. Are you going to really be able to put yourself into it and be the best that you can be there? Mm-hmm. I think it's important the stability is important. And, I understand the wanderlust thing, but somewhere along the line, you need to put down some roots and it's just like with family, you have to put down some roots, and family is so scattered nowadays. I'm pretty fortunate and Becky and I both, because our kids are all close here. Mm-hmm. But I know people who have kids on the East Coast and in California, and they're just all over the place. So they have they don't have that stability. So,
oh,
yeah. I had a thought and I lost it.
Well, I also kind of have one. I don't know how much more time we have. But I did want to. So we have mostly been talking about careers, but I've heard that it's more than that. I mean, in both your cases, you're talking about, it sounds like really what you believe your vocation was being in service to others with your skill set.
Yes.
And your job happened to work really well with that.
Yes.
Now, from either of you, Becky or Jerry, would you say there was a way that your vocation was very much outside of your career, your responsibilities and relationships with others? So I'm guessing I'm kind of looking at like what the expanded view might be for y'all.
I wouldn't say it's outside it. I think it was a lifestyle. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know.
No, that's good. That's good to hear.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it obviously it had something to, like, it wasn't just something that work was work and then home was home. I mean, your son became a plumber, so obviously there was some spillover. right.
Oh, good terms. I was talking about plumbers.
Yeah, spillover. Yeah. But so Becky, when you think about your vocation, you had that long career, and it was a way in which you served the community and served people who are particularly vulnerable. But when you have other thoughts about vocation, how else might you think about that in your life?
Well, with family, I mean, I had my girls, and actually after I was working for several years before I started the family. But I mean, it was a lot of providing, for me, it was providing for my family, but also the work and the people at the work kind of became family. We did a lot of stuff together. We'd have summer parties and Christmas parties, and so
There was kind of that
it was kind of all encompassing.
interesting,
Yeah.
Intertwined.
Yeah, it was.
which makes sense because you're one whole person. You're not,
Yeah.
Becky the mother and then Becky the employee. You are Becky, who is both a
Right.
mother and an employee.
Right.
So
I mean, there were days where, it feels like you work 8 hours a day or sometimes 10, because I'd work overtime, and then you go home and you work 10 hours at home, and
yeah,
they were long days.
yeah, I'm sure.
But it was good, and the kids always knew where I was. So,
Yeah. Well, in you saying Becky the mother, it reminds me of, well, you guys have children. And I want to speak into the other kind of part of vocation, that you guys are parents. I'm sure we could cover so much on just parenting alone, but how would you kind of speak into your calling as a parent too? Like, trying to think of kind of where I want to go with this, but with vocation, but like you guys, like what you're saying, more than just more than just your career and job. Like, you guys have family, and you're called to be a parent. Like, was that a hard balance of, well, I've got to take care of my kids and whatnot, but also how you prioritize family and that as well?
well, I had the good fortune to have a great babysitter that I would take my kids to, because I didn't have any family in the area where I was living. My family was all over in Eastern Washington.
Oh, okay.
But I was fortunate to have a babysitter who watched my kids for years. I would drop them off with her. She'd keep them when I had overtime.
Yeah.
I'd take them in their pajamas, and she'd get them dressed and get them to school. I mean, the kids would get sick at school, and she would pick my kids up. So I was really, I considered myself really fortunate to have her, because so many of my coworkers didn't. Their kids were in a daycare center, and if they were sick, they couldn't go. If my kids were sick, Lori took care of them.
Yeah.
So it was just she was a real blessing for all of us.
Yeah. And then kind of she would catch you up on what the kids do today. And
I missed quite a a few firsts, but it was okay.
Yeah. But you provided for the family. So
Yeah.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
it was different, I think, with you.
Yeah, I guess I would have to say my one regret would be that I didn't spend less time working and more time with my family. But it's just, it was part of the deal.
Yeah.
So, but balance is a hard thing. And I'm sure that I feel like I should have spent more time with my family and less time working, but that's the way I am. Work.
So this is built into us.
Yeah.
But that does remind me, as kind of we're wrapping up towards the end. But for listeners at home and people listening, also thank you for listening to, if you've made it this far or watched this far. Jerry and Becky, what would your kind of 2 cents be for people who are looking to start their careers, or who are currently living out their calling, their job and career? What would be your advice to them in their day-to-day work?
Well, I've heard it said that if you love what you do at work, you'll never work a day in your life. And find something you enjoy doing and do it. Stick with it. Yeah, that would be my advice.
Yeah. But Becky,
Oh my goodness.
it doesn't have to be right or wrong.
I don't know. I guess maybe for people coming out of school, especially out of high school, unless you really know what you want, there's no law that says you have to go to college or university. And I guess I would say, if you're coming out of school, maybe look into the trade, see what's out there.
She's on my side.
I totally am.
I think it's a great side.
I just don't feel like, not everybody's made for college. I mean, I had a year and a half. But I think especially for the young people today, I mean, college is not the all or the everything, and you can have a great career in the trades.
Yeah, I love that. David, would you add anything from what you view kind of heard and gotten from our conversation today?
Well, yeah, that I think a lot of I'm coming at this from my perspective, and of course, I think a lot of especially younger people they're going into the universities less about trying to get a lot of money out of a job in the future because university is so expensive. But that is certainly it for some people. I'm going to go get a college degree, I'll get paid more in the end. But I think honestly, most people I want to have a meaningful, impactful job. But with what both of you have shared is you can have a meaningful, impactful job that is a trade or not a trade as well. There's so many ways to live out the responsibilities and the relationships and to support them in a way that God has given you. And it doesn't require a 4-year degree and approval from a university on your life. I mean, and I'm saying this as a guy who spent, 9 years in post-high school. And, and in a lot of ways, I think that was necessary for the career I wanted to follow. I did kind of know where I wanted to go. But, you don't need that stamp of approval. And I think a lot of young people feel like that's kind of the default choice. And so I appreciate hearing from you guys that's not it. Like you can support and you can find meaning and do good work for people who need it. A lot of ways.
Yeah. I think that was an awesome, thoughtful answer. If you've been listening, this is good.
Well, I got to say, Luther wrote something very similar because he was dealing less with the university and more with the monks. Everyone wanted to go become a monk because that's how you pleased God. And he's like, no, you plumbers and ditch diggers and soldiers and kings and all these things are necessary for society to exist and to be fruitful and to be good. And so he really was big on, and he was saying that as a guy who spent most of his life up to that point as a monk. So
Yeah, if everybody was a pastor, we wouldn't need you.
We wouldn't, and what would we be eating? And how would it work? I don't know. All I know is that water runs downhill. And that's, but apparently sometimes it goes up. I don't know how the plumbers do that.
It's magic.
That's excellent. That's what I gained today. Plumbers are just magicians.
Okay.
No, but thank you, Jerry. Thank you, Becky, so much for this conversation. It's been so good just hearing your guys' life and story and on top of that, listeners at home, thank you for listening. And our main goal from this podcast, we could get 1 billion viewers. That would be awesome. But at the end of the day, what we really want from this is we just want you to continue the conversation at home. From what we've all talked about today, talk to a friend, talk to a coworker, talk to a spouse, child, whoever you have around you, and just talk about this word vocation and calling and career you've been called to. And so thank you, Jerry, Becky, for speaking into that today and just sharing your life story. And thank you, David, for your conversation to this as well. So
yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah,
And welcome to St. Luke's.
Thank you. I feel very welcome. It's been a good experience and
Good.
very warm.
Good.
yes. So thank you, guys. Thank you, listeners. Thank you, and we'll catch you guys next time.
Catch you next time. All right.
All right.
That's the end of the episode, but we want to continue the conversation. Continue the conversation by sharing this episode, subscribing, or leaving a review. Connect with us on Instagram at 2414 Podcast. Connect with us through email at 2414@stlukes-church.com. Or best of all, keep the conversation going by inviting someone to process with you so that you can each walk away with more understanding that leads to more conversation as the journey continues. If you happen to be in the Seattle-Tacoma area of Washington, stop by on a Sunday morning and say hi. 2414 is a podcast produced by St. Luke's Lutheran Church in Federal Way, Washington. To find more content, discover upcoming opportunities to connect in person, or to support the show, head on over to stlukes-church.com. Thanks for walking with us.